top of mind for everybody, working on digital assets in the White House. There will be the forthcoming report on the interagency activities. We've already taken some steps with the SPR. How do we follow that up with the, accumulation plan? So there's no shortage of opportunities.
The accumulation plan, he said. Full screen here. There we go. The accumulation plan. Hopefully, am I lagging a little bit? Looks like I might be. Let me know in the comments, guys. Man, we have a good show today. There's some crazy breaking news in crypto right now. I've got a lot of DePIN projects we're going to be covering, including my number one project of the year in all of DePIN. It might not come to as a shock, I guess, to some of you that watch my channel all the time, but I think we got some serious alpha. I've got some projects I haven't covered before. I'm going to be covering today. So it's the third day of DePIN week. I'm out the rest of the week, so we are getting through all of it, and promise it'll be worth your time. Hopefully my computer doesn't crash. I have so many tabs open, so many good things to cover. I'm pretty excited about it. Oh, man. Howdy. How are you? How am I coming through? Am I coming through okay? Hopefully I'm not lagging too much. Came in a little bit later today. I had some spaces I was on and wanted to make sure I was fully prepped for everything. Looks good. What's up? What's up, Flywheel? Guess what shirt I'm wearing? DePIN rocks, baby. DePIN rocks. Guys, the market's getting pretty exciting. As you saw in that video, they're talking about the next phase. Obviously, the strategic Bitcoin reserve was the first stage. Now it's about actually accumulating Bitcoin. Will we see a new Bitcoin all-time high? I think so. I think we'll see it potentially by the end of this week, but we'll get in all that first. Let's get into some other news. There's a lot going on today. We'll start off with some broader news and work our way down. Let me get this shared here. Man, there's a lot going on. All right. First off, in New York, things have gotten a little interesting. We've got this young candidate. He won the primaries in the Democratic Party for New York mayor. Unreal. 33 years old. And it looks like he's ousting Andrew Cuomo. So, as you guys might know, Cuomo had a sexual harassment scandal. Probably didn't help things for him. But this is quite a shift with New York being a Democratic state. It is expected that he is going to be victorious here. It said this is the biggest upset in modern New York City history, is what the political strategists are saying, and told BBC there. And has some interesting views. Some of the things that he ran on: free public buses, universal health care, freezing rent and subsidized units, and city-run grocery stores, all paid for by new taxes on the rich. So, man, this is a big deal. We'll see how this plays out. But pretty remarkable. And again, like some of this stuff, like city-run grocery stores, there's a lot of people that have different viewpoints on this. But I don't know. Big shift happening in New York. This was an interesting story. It's going to be all over the news, but they're starting to do the investigations now on the auto pen and Biden's health. This is one of his, former director of the White House. What's she say? So she was the first one that was interviewed, and she confirmed that she was using the auto sign with the auto pen. And she said that she was given authority to use the auto pen and that she's responsible for handling the flow of documents to and from the president. Now, it is worth noting, she said that what they asked if she was covering up Biden's health, she said absolutely not. Okay. And she is the first of Biden's former aides to appear as a witness in front of the committee's investigation. They have several other that are coming. And this is part of them looking into Biden's health during the last 2 years of his presidency, as well as the use of his auto pen for pardons and executive orders. So this is not going to be the last you hear of this, y'all. We'll see what comes of it. I don't really have a hard stance one way or the other. Oh, man. In other news, there is another flight that caught fire on one of their engines today out of Las Vegas. That's some scary stuff, y'all. It seems like, and I've had this conversation with some friends recently, it seems like there's just way more flight incidents. But then I looked at the aviation, the actual official government website for the aviation dashboard. If we look here, it's actually not any more than we normally would see. It just seems to be in the news a lot more. There was actually slightly more in January and February, less in March, a lot less in April, way less in May. And we are on track right now to have far less incidents here in June. So it's one of those things where I think it's just been in the news a lot. I mean, if you sort for fatal crashes, same type of deal. We're right in line in some cases, many cases, a lot less than we've seen in prior years. So while it has been finding its way in the news, it's not any more crazy, not less, any less safe to fly, I guess you should say. Came across this article, pretty scary stuff here in France. There are people at concerts that are just being attacked with syringes. 145 people across the country were stabbed with needles. They're looking into what they stabbed them with. They don't know, and they're taking them to the hospital for toxicology tests, and included in that was a 15 and 18-year-old, and they said they're feeling unwell. They don't know what's going on there, but that's certainly some scary stuff for sure. And then the Diddy situation. There's some breaking news right now on this. Let's see. So it was announced earlier this morning that they were dropping some of the charges. In particular, they're not pursuing the arson and attempted kidnapping charges, but I guess there are still other charges that they're still trying to get them on, including transportation for purposes of prostitution, witness tampering, bribery, and drug-related offenses. It goes on to highlight some of the Kid Cudi, I guess, had Combs break into his house, and then shortly after his Porsche was set on fire in his driveway. But there was no one charged. So they could drop those charges. And let's see, there's another one where it's allegedly kidnapped someone. Now, some extra details on this. There's a lot of reports right now saying that he's been all the charges have been completely dropped. I don't know if that's actually the case. That would have to have happened really recently, because earlier it said, no, not all the charges have been dropped. Only certain charges, but there's still a lot of charges that are outstanding they're going at. But I think that they are having final arguments or closing arguments today. So we'll see what happens there. Man, crazy stuff with Diddy. If he gets off scot-free, that would be just kind of crazy in my opinion, because I think it's pretty evident that some wild illegal stuff was taking place there, but I guess that's for the courts to decide. Let's get into some fun macro stuff, guys. As I close this, maybe my computer will start running faster as I close some of these tabs. All right, let's get into some finance news, some macro news. This is pretty crazy, guys. Looks like BP and Shell might be merging, or Shell might be acquiring BP. They become worth $200 billion, it's estimated. So it says that BP is worth about $58 billion, but they've been having some serious issues. They've been a target for a potential takeover for some time now. There's a lot of skepticism over their green energy plans, as well as some of their management. And I guess they had a serious botched attempt to become a net zero energy company. Meanwhile, Shell is valued at $150 billion. So we'll see what happens there. But it does look like Shell is going to be purchasing BP. Something else I've been talking about recently is the student loan payments that are coming due. It is now estimated that as many as 2 million student loan borrowers are going to have their wages beginning to be garnished in July. So this is a lot higher than they originally had anticipated. I think they were looking at 1.2 million. Now it's up to 2 million. And there's 6 borrowers that are 90 days past due. So, man, that's not great. That's certainly, you think about that's going to have an impact on the economy, but it also is going to have an impact on these people's credit scores. So not necessarily a very good thing for the state of the economy. It says here, yeah, I think there was 2 million earlier this summer. Back in May, it was estimated to be 1.2. I think it said, yeah, 1.2 in May, early May. That's now up. So I think it's gonna be a much bigger issue than people realize. They released the top earning CEOs. Check this out. This is wild. The top 10 CEOs in the world brought home $27.3 billion. Elon took home 23.5 billion of that. Yeah, that's a crazy gap between him and everyone else. I mean, he is running like several of the most valuable companies in the world, but geez, that's pretty crazy to see the types of, I mean, this is the crazy earnings across the board, but man, 23.5 billion. Woo. Wow. Yeah, I imagine he's not having any trouble sleeping at night. Actually, I don't know if Elon really does sleep. That guy just seems to always be like working around the clock when he's not on ketamine. All right, so this was a crazy report that came out, and there's a lot of people talking about this right now. This was earlier this morning. Morgan Stanley predicting 7 rate cuts by the end of 2026. It says, will crypto rally again? Well, it says, according to Morgan Stanley, the first rate cut is likely to happen in March of 2026. So Morgan Stanley, they're not expecting any rate cuts this year. And they're expecting 7 next year. Says that the recent tariff announcements boost the risk of rising inflation, particularly over the next 3 to 6 months. Tariff-induced inflation will keep the Fed on the sidelines. So instead of a slow and early easing, they expect a more concentrated series of cuts starting next year. It goes on to talk about what type of implications that could have. And it also talks about how, we've been in this, for the better part of Bitcoin's history, we've been in this quantitative easing, low interest rate environment. And I think it is important. I haven't pulled this chart up for a while, but this is the Fed funds rate. And I think it is important to talk about this because if you look back when Bitcoin started right after the 2008 global or Great Recession, we've had interest rates, that's the Fed rate, near zero. We had a slight tick up when Trump was president back in 2018, 2019. Obviously, then COVID happened, we went back down. So this is the first time since Bitcoin's been around that we've had interest rates really elevated. And I think that's a big reason why this market cycle has been different than prior market cycles, because when you have elevated interest rates like that, people tend to be more risk off. Obviously, this is not good. I mean, we had rates this low. Obviously, when the markets were strong, they raised rates because, if you have rates near zero and you have an economic catastrophe, you have nowhere to go. The Fed can't lower rates to stimulate things if you're already at 0%. That's why we started raising them. Now here we are. If we do see 7 rate cuts, that'd be 0.75%. If my math is correct, that would move us down pretty drastically. Now, I will say, I have a very different view on this, and I'm not the only one. Most people do. In fact, Morgan Stanley here is very much contrarian to the overall sentiment. If you look at poly market odds, there's only 16% chance right now, at least in the markets, that we don't see any rate cuts this year. It's far more likely that we see 2 or more rate cuts this year. And that kind of coincides with what Jerome Powell has been talking about and what I expect. Some people are expecting July, I think September. We talk about this a lot, but this also goes into what we've been talking about, where there's a lot of reports now that Trump has his next Fed chair down to 3 to 4 people to replace Jerome Powell. And everyone's out there like, he's going to fire Jerome Powell. I don't see that happening. But Jerome Powell's term is up in May. I do expect that the next Fed chair is probably going to be a lot more hawkish, a lot more likely to cut rates. Now, 7 rate cuts, that would actually be a little bit concerning, I think. and you're seeing some people have this take. If we have that many rate cuts, I think that we would have to have some serious weakness in the economy and likely the job market, and we might have to be in a recession to have that many rate cuts. So that may not actually be bullish. I know people are like, 7 rate cuts, that's amazing. I'm not so sure. I don't know that I agree with that. But if we see maybe 2-3 rate cuts this year, maybe 4 next year, and it's more spread out, okay, that I can get on board with. Speaking of the overall sentiment, though, this is pretty wild. So it says here that consumer sentiment, and this is according to the University of Michigan survey that the Fed looks at, a lot of economists look at the surveys done there. So for the first time in 6 months, we've seen consumer sentiment climbing, still well below the 20% below the 2024 December 2024 numbers rather. We had the post-election bump. So you're seeing here, like, yes, from May to June, we've seen a bump in sentiment across really all of these metrics, still below June. But here's what's freaking nuts. And this shows the difference in sentiment based on the political party. Okay, if we look, and they started sorting this out by Democrats versus Republicans. You have the index of consumer sentiment here, current economic conditions, index of consumer expectations. The left here is Democrat, the right is Republican. Look at the stark differences, guys. You get 40 versus 94. So the Republicans are very bullish and very, optimistic about the economy. Democrats are super pessimistic right now about the economy. This is a crazy differential. And it really begs the question, what is causing that? Is it the media and how they're covering the things that Trump's doing? I bet that's a lot of it. But it is really wild to see such a difference in opinion on the outlook of the economy based on political affiliation right now. I mean, we haven't seen, I looked back through the numbers, I don't think we've seen it quite that drastic before. But I think it does really it does show like where we are as a country right now. Like we are very, very divided. There's a lot of reasons for that, but I do think that certainly the media has lots to do with that and how they cover the events that are taking place today. Whew. All right, guys. We're going to dig into the crypto news, and then I've got a lot of deep end stuff for us to cover. It's very exciting. Some new projects I haven't covered, some serious alpha. Oh, man, I would love you got me a new shirt. I was wearing my Make Something Every Day shirt last night. Rocking the Bitcoin hat, too. Bitcoin, yeah. I think, like I said, I think we could see a new all-time high with Bitcoin by the end of the week. We'll have to wait and see. Very exciting things happening in the markets right now. Let's dig in. Speaking of that, it's already played. I did play this clip, but I want to play one more time for you guys, for anyone that wasn't here at the beginning. I've got a couple other clips I want to play too. But some pretty crazy stuff happening right now in the crypto space. A lot of really positive tailwinds for us.
Those are top of mind for everybody, working on digital assets in the White House. There will be the forthcoming report on the interagency activities. We've already taken some steps with the SPR. How do we follow that up with the, accumulation plan? So there's no shortage of opportunities and things to do. So after we leave here, I'll get right back to it.
The accumulation plan, we're about to see.
Those are top of mind.
We're about to see the U.S. government buy Bitcoin. I talked about this yesterday. Texas now, they have their strategic reserve bill passed. They're likely to buy, I think, $10 million of the Bitcoin. There have been so many big purchases of Bitcoin, not just the institutional, but you've seen countries buy, okay? The smart money, the billionaires are coming out of the woodworks everywhere talking about buying Bitcoin. Absolutely bananas. Absolutely bananas. Also, check this clip out. They're talking about now retirement funds buying Bitcoin. Federal retirement funds.
And one of the things we're trying, as we have this sliver of light, one of my goals is in our federal retirement system to offer a Bitcoin ETF as an investment option for federal employees. And here's your leader right here. She's fighting for you, thought. And one of the things we're trying,
Of
as
course,
we
that's
have
Cynthia Lummis over there. She's talking about. I'm going to move my headphones so there's no back feeding on the audio. Hopefully there wasn't on that, but all right, there we go. Cool. So guys, that's that's massive, 43 trillion in retirement funds. So ETF specifically for federal employees to start buying Bitcoin. Like what? This is like 4 years ago. None of this, people would have thought we were in the twilight zone. And all this stuff is happening. I feel like the general population has no idea. And here we are with Bitcoin. Where are we at here? Let's see. Come on. Start sharing this tab. I'm lagging out here. I'm just going to share the, sounds like share the audio anymore. Bitcoin, where are we at? Where's the price on Bitcoin at? Come on, coin market cap, load up. There we go. 107,572. Wow. Man, I'll tell you, like we have seen, look at this nice climb up. I think we're going to see an new all-time high, guys. I really do. I think we'll see it possibly by the end of this week. There's so much buying happening right now. It's absolutely insane. You like remember, there's only 450 new Bitcoin mined that go into circulation per day. And we're seeing these like left and right. These entities are like, yeah, I bought 1,000. This one bought 2,000. This one bought 10,000. It's like, that is just absolutely insane. We're seeing the supply squeeze happen. Oh, man. Oh, Jerome Powell testified in front of Congress, by the way. This is yesterday. I want to play a quick clip from that. Where are we at here? If I can find it. Man, I got too many clips open here. Too many tabs open. Here we go. Boom. Let's play this.
Banks are the regulated entities that are in the digital assets or crypto space.
So our view is that banks get to decide who their customers are. That's not our decision. And so banks are free to provide banking services to the crypto industry, to crypto companies. And banks are also free to conduct crypto activities as long as they do so in a way that is, protective of safety and soundness.
Thank you very much. Let me shift gears because I want.
Wow. We went from people being debanked for owning crypto to now banks having crypto services. Talk about a shift in the sentiment around crypto right now. And then yesterday, you said it was a couple days ago, wasn't it? The stablecoin bill moved from the Senate to the House. It is expected to be passed. But check this out. This is what Trump had to say about this. Not only the stablecoin bill, though.
With more on that, Emily, good morning.
Good morning, Becky. Yeah, well, CNBC got an exclusive first look at what could be the biggest crypto bill of the year coming out of D.C. Banking Chairman Tim Scott, along with Senator Cynthia Lummis, introduced a framework today for a piece of legislation that would really provide the rules of the road for crypto and other digital assets. Now, this framework includes things like a definition of digital assets, when they would be regulated as a security versus as a commodity. The framework for the bill commits to reducing regulation. And it also says that there is a need for a small common sense package of measures directed at things like preventing money laundering and sanctions evasion. Now, the bill is yet to come, but Lummis, who called for the bill to pass before the end of the year, has said in a statement to CNBC that while the European Union and Singapore have established clear regulations, U.S. continues to sit on the sidelines while the digital asset industry seeks greener pastures. That changes today, she says. The new outline builds on momentum last week when the Senate passed a stablecoin bill with strong bipartisan support. Trump is now pushing for the House to move on that bill, saying on Truth Social that the House must get it to my desk ASAP, no delays, no add-ons. But the House has their own version of not just the stablecoin bill, but also today's introduced bill on market structure. And Chairman French Hill says he wants them to move together before the end of August. So a lot of crypto news coming up on Capitol Hill.
Boom. So it's not just the stablecoin bill, there's the market structure bill too. And Trump's like, get it to my desk. Let's get this thing passed. They said it's going to happen before the end of August. That is massive, massive news. Huge. And now we have Visa and MasterCard getting into the fold. You know, they have to at this point, but this is their CEO of Visa.
And building for years, preparing for this moment. The Genius Act has now passed the Senate, as you know, and is expected to pass the House. I think that'll give regulatory clarity to stablecoins. And we've been embracing stablecoins. We've been enabling people to issue Visa credentials on top of stablecoins. We've been modernizing our own settlement infrastructure with stablecoins. And we have a whole host of innovations that we plan to deploy around the world embracing stablecoins.
Do you believe then stablecoins are going to be a significant way that people transact in the future?
Hey, David, we think there's product market fit for stablecoins in 3 areas. The first is the capital markets use case, and you've seen that with crypto trading, and that's true globally, here in the US and around the world. But the product market fit that's most interesting going forward is outside the US. And there's 2 areas. The first is countries where you've got high currency volatility or currency controls, where people really want to have access to US dollars, and they either can't get US dollars or it's very expensive to do that. Stable coins provide an opportunity for people in those countries. Maybe there's 30, 40, 50 of those countries around the world to have easy, cost-efficient access to US dollars. And we'll plan to give them Visa credentials on top of those stable coins that they can spend in merchants around their country or other places. The second area of product market fit is cross-border, and that can be remittances, person-to-person, or business-to-business transactions. And in both of those areas, those are additive opportunities for Visa, and we're embracing stable coins and building and innovating on top of them to provide new use cases in those areas.
Right.
I think there's a little confusion because most stable coins are US dollar denominated. People immediately think about use cases in the United States, when I think most people who studied this and are active in this really understand that the product market fit is outside the US.
Guys, do you know how much money is about to come into crypto? It's so wild. And I mean, yes, it's going to, there's a lot of demand, right, in the crypto markets and the crypto-minded people. But as far as cross-border payments, bringing banking to people all over the world, US dollars, on-chain, stable coins, this is not just the US. This is a global phenomenon that's taking place right now. There's going to be so much money flooding in to the crypto market. And it's not just Visa, guys. Not just Visa. Check this out. We just had this announcement yesterday. Chainlink and MasterCard partnered to enable over 3 billion cardholders to purchase crypto directly on chain. Goes on to say here, there's no doubt about it. People want to be able to easily connect to the digital assets ecosystem and vice versa. That's why we continue to leverage our proven expertise in global payments network to bridge the gap between on-chain commerce and off-chain transactions. In coming together with Chainlink, we're unlocking a secure and innovative way to revolutionize on-chain commerce and drive the broader adoption of crypto assets. Keywords, broader adoption of crypto assets. Y'all, this is crazy. This is crazy. What's up, man? I did see that accepting crypto assets for mortgages. I actually covered that yesterday. That is huge too, man. Being able to include stablecoins, include Bitcoin holdings to get approved on mortgages. There it is. These bills, the stablecoin bills, the market structure bills that are going to be passed here. I don't think a lot of people realize just how much new money is going to be coming into the space from this. And you see the entire financial system is moving on chain now. It's such a big deal. Now, I will say, if you remember, I talked about this last week, Arthur Hayes was talking about how, hey, Circle's overvalued. Okay, so yes, we're going to see a lot of excitement around this. He did say Circle is overvalued, warns against the stablecoin IPO mania. There's a lot of people that are like, man, just buy every stablecoin stock right now. Now, granted, we went from $31 to like almost $300 on Circle, but it turns out Arthur Hayes was correct. After getting up to nearly $300, we've seen quite a correction down to $204. But guys, still, this news is so big. Seeing Visa, seeing MasterCard, seeing banks are now going to be able to provide crypto services. This is such a 180 from where we were 4 years ago. And talking to a lot of the founders of different DePIN projects, which we're going to talk about next, they're talking about how 4 years ago they didn't know if we would even have crypto anymore. There was, when I was at the Bitcoin conference, the Winklevoss twins were like, "Hey, we were down to our last bank account. We were about to close up shop because we weren't going to be able to, pay our employees. We almost got fully debanked." We went from that to where we are today. I don't think anyone could have, in their wildest imaginations, imagined that we'd be here today. And it is remarkable. It's exciting to see that we are here now. When you put your crypto in a bank or keep it in cold storage, y'all, I love cold storage. I also love my Tangent wallets. I'm not gonna lie. Yes, we could use it for crypto mortgages. We were just talking about that, William. And William's still up because he got in on the Circle IPO at $31. Man, you're gonna be telling your kids about that for decades, buddy. Remember that one time I got in that Circle IPO? Guys, there's so many good opportunities out there right now. And the DePIN side of things, we've been talking about this a lot. I think we're about to see things really explode here for DePIN. And that, of course, is the next thing we're going to talk about here. I have a plethora of projects, including my number one DePIN project. If you guys watch my channel, you might know what it is. You might know the trade of a century. Man, maybe in the traditional stock market. Yes. Yeah. You don't see a 10X too often in 3 weeks. That is true. The number one project to cover today. This is not my number one project, but the first project I'm going to cover today. My number one project will be the last project I cover. Just letting you know. So stick around. It's also recording. Make sure, by the way, to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Make sure if you're on X to like, reshare. There's a recording, so share it after the fact as well. All right, so let's dig in. The first project, 375 AI, he asked. I had covered 375 AI 2 days ago. It is one of my favorite projects. It's not my number one project, but it is one of my top projects. The inflow of stablecoin capital further bolstering the treasuries market is another reason I'm long digital assets 100%. This is why it's become. So before we get in here, let's talk about this for a second. This is why it's become a bipartisan thing. They're expecting that the stablecoin issues are going to be the number one treasury holder within the next few years. Could bring as much as like $2 trillion in financing of our debt by buying mostly T-bills, short-term debt. But still, we need buyers of our debts. We have $9 trillion coming due in U.S. debt in the next 12 months. We are also running a $2 trillion deficit and $1 trillion in interest. So $12 trillion in the next 12 months needs to be sold through our treasuries. And stablecoin issues are going to be a big part of that. The other is the SLR. Obviously, we talked about this, but actually, Jerome Powell talked about that yesterday, too. They're going to be loosening banking regulation so our banks can hold more treasuries. But I 100% agree with you. We are going to see that the stablecoin issues are going to be a big part of stabilizing the U.S. dollar. Deep is another one of my favorite projects. It's not my favorite project. I covered that a couple of days ago, too. These are all, by the way, what I'm covering today. I have not covered this week yet. So all new projects. If you haven't watched my last 2 days, I'm actually going to be cutting out my DePIN segments and just posting those directly so you guys can very easily watch the DePIN specific stuff. But Helium, Y'all, Helium is the first project I'm going to cover today. Helium was an inspiration for a lot of us getting into DePIN, myself included. I came across DePIN Helium early in my crypto days. Thereafter, I took my blockchain courses and was like, man, light bulb effect for me. And I was in Helium. Helium really like blew my mind, frankly. They're making massive moves. For one, earlier this year, partnered with AT&T officially. You also have the fact that they are expanding in Mexico. Okay, so they are expecting to bring coverage to 2.3 million people in Mexico with this partnership. I think he believes it's movie star, but it's the country's second largest carrier service. They have a grant program that is launched. The big thing is matching supply and demand right now, because let's be real, at the beginning, they built out a lot of supply. We didn't have a lot of demand on the network. Well, now we are building supply where it's needed. And Flywheel Systems knows all about that. Flywheel is an OG Helium guy. He might have had a hotspot in like the first 10,000. I'm not sure, but he built out a lot of hotspots, man. He knows. He was very instrumental in helping me out in building out my network, actually. So shout out to you, man. This $50 million grant, the way it works is if you put a hotspot in a high traffic area, you can apply for the grant and get paid for building out the necessary coverage. They also just announced this today. They have these sales tools. Check it out. So you want some flyers to go out there and talk to business owners and get coverage. They gave you marketing materials. That's pretty cool. But let's talk some metrics, guys. Let's talk some metrics. $2.66 million in monthly revenue now. 1.1 million daily active users and nearly 36 terabytes per day. And we are just getting started. Okay. You think about the amount of hotspots and the coverage that's being added right now. What's happening down in Mexico. Y'all, absolutely crazy. And I think this guy, by the way, Dylan, he works with Masari. He's talking about how DC burns are up 86% since January for Helium, annualized revenue at $32 million. And yet, H&T is down 63% year to date. By the way, we have another halving coming up in August. But the Latin America expansion, the movement with AT&T, y'all, like, it is absolutely insane. You see this crazy, the price action just down, and the market cap, rather, fully diluted valuation. The network usage, though, the fundamentals are absolutely crushing it. So what do you think is going to happen to the price of H&T? Well, I think when the market recovers, we're going to see some big moves here, y'all. And that is why, I built out, deployment business, like 70 rooftop installs in the early days of Helium. Still a large H&T holder myself. You remember back in the heyday, woo! Oh God, I think it actually got up to over $50. That was back in the last market cycle. We are now, the valuations we're seeing on some of these projects now are almost in line with what you'd see in a Web 2 company. But man, Helium, one of the big leaders, one of the reasons why a lot of us are here today and why a lot of these other DePIN projects even exist, let's be real, and definitely due for a major bounce back. And as Flywheel says, Helium's on the cusp of greatness. I have to agree with you, man. I have to agree with you. Let's talk about some other networks, though, because they're not the only player in town. I'll mention some of these. A lot of people always comment. They're like, "How come you don't talk about this project?" Let's talk about Xnet. They're doing a similar thing. They also had an announcement with AT&T. One of the things I'll say about Xnet is that, early on, I think their tokenomics were awful, but they changed them. They updated them. Okay. They also got some investment earlier this year in March. Okay. So that's a good sign. And if you look at the, token price right now, Yeah, it's 2.7 million market cap, fully diluted valuation at 29 million. That's not bad, man. That's not bad. If Xnet takes off, you could definitely do some multiples from here, and that's why I bring it up. And they are playing in that space. And I don't think that there's just one player. I don't think it's just going to be Helium. I think there's going to be other players that can exist and can do well. The telecom industry is massive. So, I don't generally cover this project, but I have to say, like, they are doing things. And I want to cover it because there's a lot of different players in this space. Another one's World Mobile. A lot of people have been commenting. They're like, how come you don't cover World Mobile? All right, I'll cover it. They're doing a similar thing. They're doing a lot of coverage globally. I will say they started off on Cardano. They've since shifted. So this happened earlier this year. They moved from Cardano over to a layer 3 on Base network. Base is a layer 2 on top of Ethereum. There were some, they were mentioned in this article here, talking about how they are offering a blockchain solution to bring connectivity around the world. And they had a post here I saw a while back that they were working in conjunction with Starlink to bring connectivity to areas that had been destroyed by hurricane affected communities. So pretty cool stuff. And I think they are looking to really hit some of the emerging markets around the world to bring connectivity to them. We look at the World Mobile token. Their market cap 106 million, 288 million fully diluted valuation. Okay. So a lot of people, they have a big community. A lot of people are really, really big fans of this project. So another player in this space, and I think they're worth covering. Now, this is kind of my dark horse. Let me say, I like World Mobile team, but they always seem so antagonistic when you mention any other DePINs. Yeah, I don't like when projects are like that, when they're like, you mentioned another DePIN project, and you're like, no, screw that project. It's like, dude, I like to see the collaboration. I think, the more success we see within DePIN on projects across the board, the better it is for the space. So I don't get that mentality of like attacking other projects. That's crazy to me. So yeah, I haven't seen that, but if that's the case, I don't like that either. They're trying to dog on Xnet and Karrier One this morning. Yeah, I don't get that. I don't know why teams tend to do that. I think that's a bad look. And when I was in sales, before I move on to one of the ones you just mentioned, which is actually my dark horse in this category. When I was in sales, like we would always talk about how, if you had competition you're up against, don't dog the competition. That looks really bad. Instead, talk about the reasons why your value proposition is the best. Highlight your benefits. I think talking poorly about other projects, it doesn't reflect well on you. And I think that you end up losing in the long run. So I don't get that mentality. Karrier One, guys, this is my dark horse. I've been doing a lot of research on this project. I've talked to some people that know this sector of DePIN much better than I do. And this is the one that a lot of people are really, really bullish on. And I have to say, I'm a really big fan of Karrier One. They're doing similar things to some of the other projects. They are also partnering with AT&T. AT&T is like, you know what? We love DePIN, apparently. The other thing is that they're built on SWI. I always thought it was SUI, but I guess it's SWI. And that is a blockchain people should not be sleeping on, guys. I think that SWI could do quite well. There's a lot of people saying it could be the next Solana. I don't know about all that, but maybe. But I do like Karrier One. Apparently, their team is dialed in. And I don't think the K1 token is launched yet. I was messaging some people earlier for verification on that. Let's see if they got back to me. I don't think it is launched yet, though, because I was looking around. Couldn't find it on CoinGecko. I was looking through the documentation. Sounds like maybe next month, according to my source. We'll see. But really, really big fan of Karrier One. But yeah, all of these. I think Helium is due for a major bounce back. Xnet from its current market cap. And, I think it could do multiples because they are doing something there. Karrier One, massive. World Mobile token. I don't know, man. The people like them, but I don't like that they're dogging on other projects. What's up with that? What's up with that? Let's talk about another project I really like here. and that is WeatherXM. WeatherXM. Look, there's a lot of weather networks out there in DePIN. When I look at like the telecom stuff I just covered, I think there could be multiple players. I'm not saying there can't be multiple players when it comes to like these weather stations being deployed, but I think out of all of them, WeatherXM is the one that I have my bets on. I have stations deployed myself. They have a legit team. They've been around for a while. They're established. If you look at the map here, they have very solid coverage. Some of the other weather projects, I'm not going to call them out by name, but I think some of them are more interested in selling hardware than actually driving revenue. I think that WeatherXM is positioning itself to really be the leader in this space and DePIN when it comes to weather deployments. But as you can see, they have really good coverage around the world. They're also looking to do something similar to what like DABA, who I covered the other day, and Helium is doing with their grant program with targeted rollouts. So same deal, like they are allowing people to invest and they are then getting coverage in areas where it's needed, in particular, emerging markets. And this is something that, doing my research, because I did do a deep dive on this project, the need for weather data in emerging markets is massive. There's a very large percentage of our agriculture globally happens in emerging markets. The problem is they don't have weather data. When you look at the US, for example, we have a lot of government funded weather data collection and weather data analysis. Our 7-day forecast is as good as the 1-day forecast in a lot of these emerging countries. So what the big problem around that, obviously, if you're a farmer, yeah, it helps to know what the weather forecast is, but it's really around insurance, crop insurance specifically. A lot of these areas, they can't get crop insurance because the insurance companies don't know how to properly assess the cost of insurance and the premiums. And as we've seen elevated weather events around the world, a lot of these farmers, especially medium to small size farmers, can get their crops wiped out and they're essentially screwed. So, they're solving a real world problem here. And there's a major market for it, particularly, also like hyper local weather data. The stuff we're going to start seeing with weather forecasts can be pretty wild. Now, if you want to participate, they have obviously the targeted rollouts that they're starting, so you can just invest and they'll get those set up for you. DABA, actually, they have a partnership with as well. So you can get access, exposure to both WeatherXM and DABA. They're in India, but you can also deploy yourself. I have a bunch of these H2s. They are super easy to set up. Stick a battery in there, get it synced up. You don't have to run wires up to the rooftop, any of that. Runs off the Helium Network. Pretty sweet setup. They've got the Wi-Fi. They've also got the 4G options. But me personally, I've deployed all H2s. Been a really good experience for me. If you look at the price right now, $12.77 million market cap. Fully diluted at just over 21 million, y'all. One thing to note about this project is that the max supply is a lot less. Most DePIN projects have $1 billion or more. They only have 100 million. So that's why I always look at market cap. But I think that WeatherXM could do quite well in the future. And again, I do have a deep dive on this project. So if you want to learn more about it, I really get into all the details. In this, it's about 12-minute video. So highly recommend checking that out. I'm going to be interviewing their team probably in the next couple of weeks as well. So big fan of what WeatherXM is doing. Let's cover a couple other projects here. Flux. Now, as Flux is looking to create a fully decentralized option for not just Web3, but Web2 companies too. And they are working with a good amount of Web2 companies. But think about what like Deep Network's doing. I covered them a couple of days ago. Similar concept, but they've been around a long time, man. Flux has been around like years at this point. They also have a very solid team. I highly recommend following Daniel Keller. He joins a lot of spaces and stuff too. They have a space every Thursday. But again, their whole thing is like these projects should be fully decentralized. And that's kind of like the dirty little secret in DePIN is a lot of these projects are still using AWS, for their clouds, for cloud storage, for cloud compute. They can use Flux and be fully decentralized. And I do like Flux a lot, same with like Deep Network, again, like I covered, but they are tried and true. They've been around for multiple years. They're working with Web 2 customers. If we look here at their price, $73 million market cap. So obviously down quite a bit. If we look at the 1 year here, when you start seeing prices down here, this is when I start getting really interested in adding to positions. They got all the way up to $2.77 back in 2022. And, like a lot of these projects that are at least still around in DePIN, their fundamentals have only gotten stronger since then. So another prime candidate for a major bounce back. Conduit Network's another one I haven't covered before, but I have to say, their founder here, Brandon Baker, this guy is super sharp, man. Y'all should definitely follow him, follow what Conduit's doing. This project, I think, could be massive. Excuse me. Be massive. So they have several different services. They've got Conduit GPU, so basically decentralized powering of AI at compute at the edge. You've got the Conduit Core. Sorry. Yeah, the Conduit server, which I is more so basically like a compute distributed cloud compute network, and then domain specific solutions, but basically decentralizing the future of the internet. But man, talk about a super sharp team and a guy that has some really good takes, and they absolutely get it. They understand building out an actual business. And I think that we're going to see a big shift here, especially in DePIN. We actually discussed this on a space earlier today, how we need to get away from the hype cycle, mining tokens to sell them, this 4-year market cycle. There's no longevity there, and you can't build a business when you're dealing with a hype cycle and just speculative buying. He's looking at valuing these DePIN projects based on revenue the way that traditional markets would. And I think he's right. I think it's really important for us to make this shift because we need to be able to bring in new investment. And I think the DGen investors, they have a very short-term mindset. And I think that Conduit, they get it. I think that they're going to be a very, very successful project. So definitely give them a follow as well. Here it's just Conduit_network. Another project is Tashi. This guy too, follow Ken Anderson. He has some really good takes. This guy's really, really sharp too. I've been on some spaces with both him and Brandon, and man, talk about some alpha when you're on those spaces. But they're basically getting into powering a lot of gaming protocols. And they talk about how Roblox spends $400 million a year just to keep their game running. So they're getting into the gaming space. Tashi, Unleashing DePIN, Tyler, he joins a lot of my spaces on Tuesday. This is a project that he speaks so highly about. So this is a project I'm going to cover more in depth, but one that should absolutely be on your radar. Make sure to give them a follow. Give Ken a follow too. This guy, again, really, really smart. When he's in spaces, I recommend jumping in there because he has a lot of really good things to say. And this is another project I think is going to do really well. People have different views on privacy networks, but they have a really big community. And there's a lot of people that are really bullish on this project. I know people have different takes on privacy networks, but if we look at what they've done, they did get up to $2.10 not that long ago, earlier this year. Sitting at just under a $40 million market cap. I am looking to get some hardware from them, so I will do a product review on that and let you know. But that's a project that a lot of people, their community is strong. Look at the community sentiment right now, 95%. So very solid. This is one that I think could absolutely bounce back and do quite well. So that's why, again, I bring this one up. All right. Someone said World Mobile Token. Dude, I covered it. I covered it earlier. You have to watch the recording. But yeah, man, a lot of people are like, why don't you cover World Mobile Token? So it's like, I'll cover it. I'll cover it. But yeah, I did cover it earlier in the session today. We're going through a lot of projects. Now we're getting into some fun ones. Not to say those other ones aren't fun, but let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. We got 5 more projects to cover. One of them is the last one I'm going to cover is my number 1 DePIN project. William, I hope you're back from eating dinner, man, because we're about to cover one of your favorite projects, and that is Silencio. All right, guys. This one, they are measuring noise pollution data. Free to download the app. And essentially, when you're out in public, you can just measure the noise pollution around your area. You earn tokens for doing so. So, maybe you don't have cash right now. A lot of people got freaking wrecked earlier this year when the market dropped out. This is one you don't have to spend money. You can participate and earn tokens today. By the way, looking at some of their metrics, 38.7 billion data points so far. They have 1.1 million people that downloaded and are using the app to collect data, covering 180 countries. Ooh, let's look at the data map. Let's see. Wow. Okay, so this is, damn. I haven't looked at this map yet, so this is my first time. Wow. So they've collected data points pretty much freaking all over Europe, all the way down in Africa. We got India's like completely covered. Wow. So yeah, they've done a really good job of collecting data. Now you might say, who cares? Well, there's a lot more attention being paid to noise pollution and its impact on your health. And this is wild, man. They've shown that noise pollution not only drives hearing loss, tinnitus, and hypersensitivity to sound, but can cause and exacerbate cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes, sleep disturbances. The list goes on and on. They're also investigating links to dementia potentially. And there's a big market here. It was $1.62 billion in 2024, expected to grow to $2.66 billion by 2034. So we're seeing growth in this. Europe been on top of this for a while, but I think you're going to see more and more where, whether it's real estate, a lot of different markets, I think you're going to be really interested in this noise pollution data. And obviously, as we start to see more studies done on its links to health issues, obviously, I think that's going to be pushed more into the forefront. If we look at Silencio, where it's at today, guys, 3.38 million market cap. Come on. Think about the amount of data they're collecting. Like that's crazy. Fully diluted valuation, just under 20 million, but 3.38. Like that, when I see these, this is like when you get in a bull run, it's hard to find anything under a $10 million market. It got to the point last market cycle where it was like 50 million. Anything under that, you're like, man, that's crazy. These are the types of things I'm looking for, like in bear markets. You see something under 10 million that has like that type of use case. Those are the ones that can do crazy multiples. Those are the ones that I'm interested in investing in. This is pretty wild though, 3.39 million. Man, yeah, big Silencio fan. I know William's a huge Silencio fan. He's still eating dinner. He's gonna be sad. He's gonna be sad he missed it. It's all right, man. When you get back, I'll let you know. Let you know we covered one of your favorite projects. Here's one that's gonna be a little polarizing, guys. DIMO. How's everybody feeling about DIMO these days? I know Tech Hustler's not a big fan. He smashed his DIMO device the other day. How are you guys feeling about DIMO? Guys, I'm going to talk about how I think this can play out, why I still am a fan of DIMO, from a big picture, why I think the token can do quite well, but what the risks are in the short term to the token price. So let's break it all down. First off, 182,546 cars connected. So pretty solid there, pretty solid network that's been built out. The big problem for them, these are good metrics, the amount of cars connected. Another good metric is the amount of people building apps in the ecosystem. The big problem for them has been this right here, which is how many cars are connecting to the apps that are built. And that's been the big problem. So if you all remember, this has probably been a few weeks now. They announced they're going to be starting to, they're going to begin charging for subscriptions to be connected to the network. The main reason is that a lot of these devices that are out there have mobile connections, and it costs money. So they said they're going to start charging for subscriptions. Now, they had caught a lot of backlash from this, and this was what Rob came out and said, the CEO. We've heard you. There will be an update on lower cost subscriptions and other important news next week. Well, that was back on 6/16. I don't think we've seen any official updates here. They're probably still trying to figure out what to do. I've been working directly with them. We'll see how this plays out. Now, I will say this. If they go with a full subscription model, I think they're going to lose a lot of vehicles that are connected to their network today. I don't necessarily think that's going to kill the project, though. And hear me out. I think for one, they'll get rid of a lot of people that were just trying to farm the token and sell it and push the token price down anyway, that weren't really helping the protocol. But on the other end of things, I think they can actually drive adoption from the types of contributors they want. Now, you see here, they are building apps. So here you can see they're like pushing commands to vehicles through the device, which is pretty cool. They can pull data from the devices, like top speed, medium speed. So let's say you have a fleet of vehicles in your business. You can basically pull any data you want. They're sending commands to lock the doors remotely. I mean, so you got to think about the use cases that could be tied to this, especially with vehicles that don't have those capabilities today. They have fleet tools being built out. So that's a massive industry for them. And I think more importantly, they've announced some really big partnerships recently. They have this partnership in Japan. They're going to bring a ton of new vehicles on there. Japan's connected vehicle market is going to hit $1 trillion by 2030. I'm trying to think. Oh yeah, here we go. DIMO claim, it says the timing appears strategic. Japan produces approximately 10% of the world's vehicles, and they're going to be able to. Let's see, I thought I had something else highlighted here. Here we go. I forget how many vehicles they expected to connect through this partnership. It's hundreds of thousands, though. This is a massive partnership, and again, this is going to shift the contributors from the DePIN-minded people that were just trying to mine tokens and didn't give a shit about what DIMO is actually doing, to partners that are actually looking to leverage the tools. These partners don't care about the tokens. They're like, hey, we're going to use the apps that you're developing. Same thing with this Kaufman partnership. This is one of the largest dealers down in Latin America. So they're looking at expanding in a major way in these other countries. They had 1.7 million connected cars projected to be sold across Latin America. Kaufman's going to be deploying DIMO LTE devices for data collection and product development. So massive amount of cars that are going to be connected there. Also, they're selling the devices on Amazon. Okay. So hear me out. This is what I'm talking about. Now, I think we need to look at the implications here. I think long-term, they're getting a lot of new connected vehicles that are going to be using the network and the apps. That's going to drive revenue. For every app that each vehicle connects to, it's $1.25 per month in revenue generated for the protocol. Okay. So they're going to essentially flush out the people potentially that aren't using the protocol, and they're going to be replacing them with people that are and driving revenue. So that's key. I think in the long term, I think because of the price of the token, I think could do quite well. Now, in the short term, it's going to depend on what they do with the subscription model. Now, if they introduce a model where if you connect your vehicle, and they're looking to now add an option where you can just automatically opt in to share your data, it'll improve the amount and I guess raise the amount of tokens you're earning. But if they can do that to replace the subscription cost where you don't have to pay, I think that's the smartest move. I don't know if that's what they're going to do. And I think if they do go that route, the project could really thrive in the short and long term. If they don't, if they introduce this subscription model, I think there's a lot of people that have tokens staked. They're going to have to look at allowing them to unstake early. I think we could see a big sell-off in the short term if that happens. But again, long term, I think the fundamentals play out with the partnerships they have with listing on Amazon that I would look at as a buying opportunity of the token itself. And that's how I'm looking at this. If we look at the token price sitting at 5.2 cents, under $18 million market cap, I mean, if you do some math here with some of these partnerships they have, I wouldn't be surprised within the next 1 to 2 years they have over 1 million vehicles connected. Let's say each is connecting to 3 apps, which I don't think is unreasonable, especially if they add this auto opt-in feature. 3 seems like that would be pretty easy, actually. Times $1.25, that would be $3.75 million in revenue a month generated by the protocol. On an annualized basis, that would be $45 million. I think that is very doable, actually. I think the upside is much greater than that. When you think about that, if they could get to, again, $45 million in annualized revenue, we're sitting at a market cap, guys, of $7.98 million. Start doing the math, okay? I think that we could see. I think we could see this project really have a major comeback. I think it'll catch a lot of people by surprise because people are more concerned with earning tokens, not looking at the business case behind it. That is why I remain bullish on DIMO. Now, I'll say this much, and I have a lot of videos, by the way, you should check out. I've interviewed their co-founders and done deep dives. I will say this, though. If they introduce a subscription model, I don't know that I'd recommend building a fleet out with their hardware. But I still am interested in owning the token for those reasons that I stated. That's DIMO. Let's talk about everyone's favorite project, Hivemapper. Let's talk about Hivemapper. Man, 33% of the world's roads mapped at this point. They are shipping the B, not just the B, the Wi-Fi version as well. So as you all know, they lost a lot of support from the community because they had delayed their shipments of the new dash cams. Now, I will say there are some reports right now that people's earnings with the new model are not as good as the old model. And it is something that I know Ariel is looking into and addressing, but that is a problem that needs to be addressed. I have to say, for people that have built out fleets of bees and are getting less earnings than the original model, that would be a reason, and I think a valid reason to be upset. Now, on the other side of things, though, they've announced a lot of partnerships: Lyft, Trimble, TomTom, NBC Universal. Here, I mean, on top of that, they said they have another Fortune 20 company they're going to be announcing. They've got a Fortune 50. This is all within the last 3 weeks. So there's a lot of people out there that, again, in the DePIN space, they thought that they would continue earning $2,000 a week by driving around the dash cam in their car. That's crazy to me. That's not sustainable. Now, are the rewards too low right now? Maybe. It doesn't help that all DePIN prices are way down. And I will say, like, if I'm going to have any criticism for Hivemapper, it's their tokenomics. I think that they have a lot of tokens that have unlocked to investors and to employees. So that makes it a lot more difficult for the price to rebound. But I will say they have been working. They've been getting customers. For all the hate that people have, name another DePIN project that has those types of customer announcements. I doubt you can. So for all the people out there yelling Ponzi and all this stuff, let's talk about building out the demand side and the business side of things. So now, obviously, they're like, hey, where's the burn? Oh yeah, there he is, right there. There's one. There's a hater. Where's the burn? Well, they did burn 808,000 tokens the other day. Now, I will say one of the things that I brought up, because I do host their AMAs now, is, hey, you need to have more transparency around token burns, around their announcements. People need to see that the token is being burned, because I am a firm believer if the revenue is not tied to the token utility in some way, shape, or form, the project's going to fail. Okay, so tokens are being burned. And it's just funny because, 2 years ago, people were like, oh, you don't have any customers, you're lying. And they started announcing customers. You're like, oh, well, those customers probably just did a trial a year ago. And now you can, your NDA's up and you can announce them. And it's like, oh, well, maybe you do have the customers, but where are the token burns? It's like, dude, come on, man. I think there's a lot of people that earn tokens early, sold them, and want the project to fail. Now, I'm not saying a Hivemapper is perfect, but I will say they are doing a much better job of customer announcements and driving demand than a lot of other DePIN projects. And I think a lot of the hate they get is frankly unwarranted. There is like criticism warranted, but I think it's a little bit over the top. I'll say that much. I do have a lot of videos on Hivemapper too. I've interviewed Ariel a couple of times. And I do host their AMAs. So I will be putting a tweet out on that. If you have questions that you want answered from the Hivemapper team, from Ariel himself, make sure when I post that to comment or hit me up on Discord, whatever, so I can make sure that to get those questions answered. Here we go. Yeah, see, that's the problem. 3 HTCs or 3 Bs, 1 side-facing HTC. IGC rewards are quadruple the others combined. Yeah, and again, that's a point of criticism for sure. I've seen Ariel has responded, and it's something I'll bring up on the AMA as well. But it is something that Ariel's responded to. I would expect they'll get that sorted out. If they don't, that's a big problem for them. I think a big problem for the project. So I do believe it's something that's on their radar they're working through. All right. Let's move on. Next project. I've got 2 more projects, guys. 2 more projects. What do you think it is? It's ROVR. A lot of people, I think that ROVR and Hivemapper are doing the same thing. I would say they're doing 2 very different things. Hivemapper is building out data with visual, or building out maps in their backend with visual data. ROVR is building out HD maps. Okay, they're using LiDAR technology. So essentially, it's a laser technology. Shoots out a laser. Once it hits, a building or something, it returns another laser, essentially to build out a 3D rendering around it. And this is going to be really, really important for robotics, for autonomous vehicles. And HD mapping is incredibly valuable. So we look at how much HD maps can cost, as much as $1,000 per kilometer. Needs frequent updates to keep up with changing road conditions. These high costs and maintenance requirements add significantly to operational expenses, highlighting the challenge of balancing detailed, accurate mapping with cost-effective strategies in a rapidly evolving field of autonomous driving. Autonomous driving being the key word there. If you look at Waymos use LiDAR. One of the big problems with the Tesla self-driving robo-taxi, they use a different technology. They don't use LiDAR. LiDAR is legit. So, guys, I think ROVR has some serious legs. They also came out with this. They just heard from one of their data clients. Look at this, though. They said one of our data clients, they already have clients. They already have customers. That's massive. They haven't been around that long. But they said that ROVR's data quality rivals the Waymo open data set. In some ways, it's even better. Less noise, higher matching accuracy, richer scenes, global coverage. This is huge. We're going to see very quickly the power of DePIN with this project. And I think that ROVR can do quite well. And they're really attacking a much needed data set. Also, I will say this. The timing is perfect. LiDAR technology, you look just a few years ago, is incredibly costly. It's come down to the point where this project can even exist. So they couldn't have done this 3 years ago. I talked to Mike Horton, by the way. The next thing I'm going to talk about is their partnership with Geodnet. Mike Horton, the founder, he speaks very highly of this project. He also looked at the hardware in depth that ROVR has. He's like, it is a really, really high quality piece of hardware. I want to talk about that hardware actually. So you have the Tarantula X. This is actually connects to the Geodnet network and verifies location data. And then you have the light cone, and this is the LiDAR unit that you put on top of your car. I'm seeing that some people are earning like $900 to $1,000 a month with this light cone. They just opened up orders again on this. So right now the ROI looks great. They also had a $2.6 million seed round of funding, co-led by Borderless and Geodnet. And I have to say, this is one of the biggest things for me is that partnership with Geodnet, because you have Mike Horton, who has proven that he knows how to run a project. And, he has a vested interest in ROVR. And ROVR's using the Geodnet network. There's a lot of synergies there. And both of them are going to be really instrumental for robotics. But the fact that they have, and same thing, I talked about this with Wingbits the other day, but having that relationship with Mike Horton is massive. In fact, I think they're even like working in the same office space in certain regions of the world. So, man, I have to say, I really like what ROVR's doing. And I think other people would agree if you look at the price, because just back on June 12th till now, we've seen it do roughly between 12 and 13x. So the price is certainly showing. Now, the market cap right now, 1.386 million. Fully diluted valuation, it's worth noting, is 128 million. So not a lot are in circulation right now. So there will be dilution. So keep that in mind for sure. I think did the math the other day. I have to remember, but I think over the next couple of years, you're going to see, I want to say 40 to 50% of the tokens in circulation, something like that, based on unlocks. But still, man, I am a really big fan of ROVR and what they're doing. I'm also interviewing their team next Wednesday. I'm scheduled to interview them. So I'll be posting that sometime probably late next week. So be on the lookout for that. All right, Joe, what do you have to say? I know you're over there hating. He said, I make more money on a 120-mile trip with ROVR Tarantula than I do 500 miles with Hivemapper. You know what, man? Early stage projects, for one, yeah, you also used to earn $1,200 a week with Hivemapper. And I remember you like trolling everybody how you're quitting your job and all that. Yeah, I think the B needs to earn more, but I would bet that the Tarantula, if you're an early investor right now, you're probably not going to earn the same with the Tarantula a year from now. I mean, that's just kind of how it goes, man. You know how this works. If you're an early investor in a project, you're taking on more risk. You said Geodnet is a great project, even though tokenomics aren't the best. Look, it was not long ago that Geodnet was getting a lot of hate and a lot of FUD. And now, well, funny you say it, it is my number one project in all of DePIN. So I have to say, Joe, why do these earnings suck that bad? I just, well, I think there's an issue with the way they're calculating the rewards. As I said earlier, Ariel has acknowledged it on X that they're looking into it. So, man. He said, good to see you, brother. Still doing Hivemapper with my fleet. 2 years ago, we were printing. Yeah, it is a lot less. I mean, look, the part of that's the token price. When market conditions rebound, if we get, let's say that Hivemapper price of honey goes up to like 10 cents and you have 5x the price that we're at today, things change very quickly in this space. So I think it's really important to remember that. Guys, in the early days of Hivemapper, I was building out my fleet when the token was below a penny. And, I had drivers that are like, man, I'm only making like $5 a week. Well, then all of a sudden they had the Coinbase listing went up to 33 cents. And, people were calling me up left and right, like, hey, I have a friend that wants one. Things change very quickly. And it's important to remember that in the space. But yes, the earnings are a lot less than they were 2 years ago. No doubt about it. Let's talk about Geodnet, guys. Geodnet is my number one project in all of DePIN right now. Has been for some time. I cannot say enough good things about this project. They are working with RTK. So RTK stands for real-time kinematics. Essentially, when you connect to a GNSS system or global navigational satellite system, and there are several of them around the world. GPS is the US version, for example. You need to connect to generally 4 or more satellites to triangulate your position. The problem is that you have basically margin of error. You have reflection off of different particles. You have reflections off of different surfaces and buildings. And generally, you can only get within a couple meters of accuracy on your location. Now, for driving your vehicle and just getting directions somewhere, it's not a big deal. But when you start looking at other use cases, let's say autonomous vehicles. Okay, let's say for drone surveys, farmers using autonomous farming equipment, you need to be a lot more precise than that. And that's what Geodnet's doing. With RTK, they are deploying stations all over the world, working in conjunction with the satellite systems to get within a couple centimeters of accuracy. And they are absolutely crushing it, guys. If we look at the map here, they have unbelievable coverage, over 18,600 miners around the world. We scroll out here. Look at the coverage they have around the world right now. Pretty remarkable stuff. All over the US, all over Europe, all over the world. I mean, look at, they even have massive coverage down in South America. You have coverage in Africa. You have coverage across India over there, all over Asia. I mean, it's pretty remarkable. Australia, pretty remarkable what they've been able to do. If we look at some metrics here, the amount of revenue continues to increase. They have a lot of tokens being burned. Monthly token burns have obviously been increasing as revenues increase, but also token prices come down with market conditions. More tokens are being burned. One thing I'll say about Geodnet is they make it very easy to see their token burns. So if you go to the Polygon scan, you can see the number 12 wallet right here. If you look at holders, this dead wallet, that shows you very clearly how many tokens have been burned. Over 1.5% of the total supply is burned out of supply forever. Will not be put back into circulation. That's pretty wild. And the revenue is continuing to build. They also had an $8 million investment round from Multicoin Capital earlier this year, bringing their total financing up to $15 million. Guys, leadership and the teams behind these projects make a big difference. Mike Horton, we joke around about it, but the things he touches in DePIN turn to gold. The guy sold his last business for like $50 million. He doesn't have to even be working, and he's like at every show. He's passionate about the project, incredibly committed to the project, and the guy is super smart. Cannot say enough good things about him. Now, if you want to get involved in the project, you can get a base station. They also have a dual miner that works in conjunction with the Wingbits network. They also have this GeoPulse that you can plug in your car and help validate and verify the network. They just you can earn GOD tokens through that. They just launched some new quests so that you can get more tokens. So a lot of different ways to get involved in the project. I also have several videos. I interviewed Mike Horton as well. I have a deep dive video on the project. And if we look at the token price, let's look at GOD. Still my number one holding in my portfolio, in my DePIN portfolio, that is. Not when you include Bitcoin. All right, so GOD token 16.81. Obviously, we got up to 37 cents, $53 million market cap. Yo, this is this project, I think, is going to do huge things. Cannot say enough, again, how big of a fan I am of this project. And then you look at other projects they're collaborating with. ROVR, it's going to be big, I think. I think Wingbits has the opportunity to be big as well. But, man, Geodnet is definitely my number one DePIN project. Whew. We covered a lot, guys. Someone said, win, honey, finance, listing. I don't know. It's a good question. We saw some on-chain activity not long ago. Maybe it's like last fall with Binance, but it never got listed. Although I have to say, the Binance listings don't have the same impact they once did. We saw a lot of projects dump after Binance listings over the last year. But it is on Coinbase. So guys, like, here's my final thoughts here as far as DePIN goes. Like, I think market conditions have largely pulled the DePIN sector down, but we saw this report from the World Economic Forum a few weeks ago, projecting that the DePIN sector is going to hit, I think it was $3.5 trillion by 2028. I don't know that we're going to get there. I think if we get there, it'd be a lot of speculative valuations, but I think we are starting to see meaningful revenue come through for these projects. I think the ones that have the solid teams, are solving real world problems, driving revenue, and are transparent, I think are going to do really well. I believe we are early in this sector that I think is going to explode. And I think there's a lot of reasons to be excited. But I also think it's really, really important to do due diligence and really research the projects, because not all of them are going to succeed. In fact, a lot of them are going to fail. You're starting to see a lot of these projects pop up that have certain red flags, whether it be their tokenomics, whether it be just trying to sell hardware and make money off that instead of the use case. Pay attention to the projects that are focused on customer acquisition, that are focused on actual revenue, that have the mindset, the business acumen mindset, if you will, because I think those are the ones that can do quite well. Whew. All right, guys, we've been on for like an hour and a half. I appreciate everyone that joined today. Make sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Like, comment, retweet. I will be breaking out some different clips of this for the different projects that I've covered to make it easier for everyone to digest. Make sure if you have any project that you want me to cover that I haven't covered yet, put it in the comments below. I hope everyone has a fantastic day, fantastic week. I'm out the rest of this week. I'll be back next week. Thank you all. Peace.